right. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone out there, no matter which part of the world you are at. If you are here having your breakfast or lunch or dinner, thanks for being here. Hashtag live if you are. Otherwise, you can always hashtag replay later on down the track if you are unable to attend this session live. Now, I have here today this beautiful lady all from across the other side of the world, Angela Harman from Utah, and we'll be discussing about classroom management. So welcome, Angela.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so Angela, did you want to introduce to the world in regards to who you are?
Sure. So I teach orchestra at a middle school in Utah. I've been teaching for around 15 years, and I've had some success growing my program. So I think the last school I was at, I grew that program like 440%. And I just recently took a new position, and my program just doubled in size in a year. So I've just had really a lot of fun growing programs and just spreading my passion for music and orchestra and string instruments with students, and just helping teach them to thrive and grow and find a new passion, new talents.
Yeah, that's absolutely fun. So I came across Angela's profile, I think by chance. It's only because I myself am a conductor as well, and an ensemble, educator, as well as I do a lot of classroom teaching. And it's good to kind of find and figure out what other people's ideas and tips and games and resources. It's more of to broaden the library per se. So I came across Angela's resources and her videos, and I thought it would be good to reach out to her to see her perspective for classroom management and ensemble, like how you grew your ensemble to be that size, because a lot of musicians are actually not trained to be educators, and to deal with a whole bunch of kids is another story. Being a brilliant player is one thing, but being a person that's able to control all these kids with so many different characters and all this energy they have within themselves, it is a challenge. It's fun, but it is a challenge.
Very true. Very true. And when you're teaching a very large class, I think the classroom management is number one, most important, just in order for you to have fun yourself, but also to make any progress with students and make that impact. That classroom management piece has to be really well established.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So when you walk into a new position in a new environment, where this is before you grew the ensemble to 400%, as you mentioned, what would be your first tip, or what would be your suggestion for those that are just starting out, or have picked up a new role in this position of classroom management?
Yes. Well, the very first thing I like to do is establish a sort of a vision for my program of what I want to accomplish, what I want it to look like, what I want for my students. And that kind of sets the stage for how I'm going to run my classroom. So me personally, my theme for my classroom is always be amazing. I want to bring out the amazing qualities and personalities in my students. And that influences everything I do, from my performances to the things that I teach, but really even the way that I run my classroom management style. It all starts with that aspect of I'm trying to bring out the best in my students.
Absolutely. And that's what we want, isn't it? We want them to thrive. We want them to be able to see themselves as capable of many things. So for me, I set expectations with my group so that they know what to expect, and they know that I only want the best out of them. How I believe that you would be the same thing, but how would you lay that out to the students?
Yeah, the very first two things I teach my students, first day, they just barely get to meet me. I tell them the most important two things they're going to learn that they have to get the fastest are, number one, how to be quiet. And I present that in a really fun way. And they usually look at me in just shock, because they've never seen a teacher do what I do when I teach them how to be quiet, because it has a lot of energy, and I'm running around the room and teaching them signals of how I want them to be quiet, and I have stories about it. And that's the first thing we master, is just and have them practice is just how to be quiet. And that's
The art of
just,
being quiet. I like that.
yeah, it's just how to be quiet. But sometimes I say how to shut up, which isn't quite as nice, but I'm joking because it's just high energy and fun. And that's the very first thing we learn. Because like you say, it's all about setting up expectations, and the procedures that you have in place are a big part of that. So I want my class to run itself. And I don't want to be in a position where I'm scolding or lecturing, because that's not fun for me. And it's not fun for the students, not inspiring. Doesn't bring out the best in them, I don't think. And so, yeah, those expectations and procedures are number one.
Okay, so how do you teach them to be quiet? What's the game or art of teaching them to be quiet?
Okay, so I do it 3 different ways. We practice this. I tell them, hey, I'm going to teach you all something very, very important. It is how to shut up. You all think you know how to shut up, but really, I just kind of joke around with them for a minute. But really, this is because I will never say that to you. I would never say those words to you. This is all about respect, and we're going to learn how to be quiet respectfully and all together and all at the same time. And the first way I show them is a signal. It looks like a little bunny. This is how I teach bow holds at first.
Oh,
And I
yes.
say, whenever I do this, that is like an orchestra salute. Like I do that, you're going to do it right back at me. And everyone is immediately quiet. And we practice doing that a few times.
Huh,
And
cool.
then I say, there's another way I could teach you to be quiet, because you need more than one way, because students are doing different things. And sometimes one scenario, this will work. And sometimes another, I need another way to get them quiet. So another one is, conductors often stand on a podium. I have a small podium in my room that I stand on, kind of like a box. It's very loud. So I step on that really, really loud, and there's no missing it. They can all hear it. And I teach them that as soon as they are loud, if I step on that, and they immediately get quiet, and they practice that. And sometimes I'll jump over the podium, so they think they have to be quiet, but then I trick them, and we play little games like that, where the second I step onto that podium, they immediately freeze and are quiet. And then the last thing I do is that I tell them a story about Disneyland. Actually, in the Haunted Mansion, there's creepy ghosts and things that stare at you on that ride. And most of them have been there and they've done that before. And so I teach them that when I say the words creep me out, then they all stare at me like this with their eyes wide. And they just all follow me in whatever I'm doing. And they think it's hilarious to do that. So they love that one. And I guess I have 4. The last one I do, it's kind of like a swimming game where people say Marco, Polo, except for I change the words to be orchestra related. And if I yell Arco, then they have to yell solo, because I joke that if they're loud when they're not supposed to be, then they have to play a solo. So that's my last one. So all the different ways I get them quiet, and I use the one that fits or is most appropriate for what I'm doing.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. And I'm assuming that the age group that you have are all primary school kids. Is that right?
They are
Or
ages 11
variation?
through 13, about 11 through 13.
Okay, 11 to 13. And are they all beginners, intermediate, or a mixture of both?
I've been doing beginners, mostly beginners and intermediate.
Okay. Yeah. I love those 2 groups. Like for me, the beginners are absolute fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my intermediate group, what I do is they know that when I start, I'm in business. So the moment I have my baton up is when, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's finding ways to not raise your voice. So those tips are really, really handy for those that are struggling to get attention of the students. But I guess it's just more of experimenting, isn't it? Because every area, every school kid is different. So it depends on what works for the school and things like that, and what works
Right.
for the teacher, because every teacher is different too.
You have to work, yeah, you have to do what fits for your personality. So another person might not want to act as crazy as I do at first and do the exact same types of games, because that's just not their personality. But I think every person has a way that works for them. It's like you say, you have to experiment and find the way that feels most natural, most comfortable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so when you have these kids, you have never met them, I'm assuming. How would you plan a program, or would you plan kind of as you go according to what what the sessions that you have had with them?
I tend to plan as I go, even though I've taught similar levels, like I do beginners and I do beginners every year and I do a year 2 class every year. I tend not to do things the same way ever. I like to experiment and I like to just continually evolve what I'm doing and try and make things better. So my planning, some things I do the same, but overall I'm kind of creating new things. And it keeps it interesting for me. And I think interesting for the students because it's always new.
Yeah.
So
Now, can I assume that your sessions are usually about 45 to an hour, or does it vary?
yeah, it's about 50 minutes.
That's an odd timing. 15 minutes.
Odd timing. It is odd. But yeah,
and would that be with the room already set up, or the kids help you set up and pack up?
I keep my room set up all day. So they just have to come in. I have my expectations on my screen with my the order of my music and kind of the agenda of what we're doing that day. So the students have practiced that routine where they come in, they know to get ready within a very short amount of time. And then I teach even my beginners how to tune. I have a class set of little clip-on tuners, and they tune themselves. And then they have a activity they have to do, or a worksheet to strengthen or do some note reading or music theory. And so there's always something for them to do. Like classroom management, a lot of it is managing to make sure there's no downtime. As soon as students have downtime or time where they don't have anything to do, that's when problems could arise or things that you don't like and behaviors could sneak into the classroom. But if they always have something to do, then the class will flow.
Okay, so what about dealing with kids with multiple abilities? So sometimes you've got kids that are absolutely smart, maybe kids that are super slow. Like, how do you manage the difference or the drastic difference with that?
Yeah, that can be tricky. Some of the way I manage it is with my seating chart. I'll often match the student who is a little bit more advanced with the student who needs some help, and I will let them help each other, or structure some activities where one is assessing another or one is tutoring another. So that helps a lot. But one day a week, we have a special thing we call flex time, where I have 20 minutes of my rehearsal is to really tailor my activities to meet the needs of students wherever they're at. And that's when I can really divide them up into groups and to set them out doing specialized learning activities, which is a really great way I've found to reach, especially those lower level learners. When you need to get those kids to catch up, it just helps structure it right. And at least once a week, they know I'm going to give them that time.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So like for me personally, I have had a group of students where I do the buddy system as well. So the more advanced helping the less advanced. And sometimes for me, I make it like a competition between rows. It depends on the classroom setting itself. So I say, we're going to have a competition between rows. Let's see who is the best role for the day. And we're going to collect points by the end of the school term. Your group's going to get, a prize or something. But yeah, like that for me, it would be out of my pocket. But, if it works, it works. But with that particular group, I do rotations of rows as well, so that everyone knows that they are equally important. It's not like the front row is the best and then the back row starts to slack. It's so that they don't get that chance of slacking ever.
Yeah, I'm the same. I change my seating every 2 weeks just so that they have experience sitting anywhere in the room. They get lots of different stand partners so they can work with different people. And I also like to do a lot of games. I'm really big into rehearsal games because I feel like classroom management is keeping them engaged and focused, and games do that. So I love what you said about creating like a little competition or making it a game.
So what kind of games would you use for your students, or have you used?
I have a lot. I keep a blog where I write a lot of my games down. It's hard for me to remember them all because I do so many. But some of my favorites, like if students are too rowdy in a rehearsal, or if I feel like I want to rein things in or revisit classroom management, one thing I do is what I call pig rehearsals, where it's I just draw a simple pig on the board slowly, but like every time there's a cutoff, if students don't all cut off together, I start drawing the shape of the pig. Like first time I'll draw the body, Or if they don't cut off the next time, then I'll add the nose. Or the next time I'll add the eyes. They're trying not to rehearse like pigs. They're trying to make sure they
Oh,
don't get
cool.
and they actually love that. Even older kids really will connect to that game because they don't want to be a pig. So I'll tell them if we rehearse like pigs or rehearse like slobs, then we're going to sound like slobs. So that's a fun, easy game for them. I like games that don't take a lot of prep.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Less
That's
prep,
like
the better.
exactly like Simon Says. They love Simon Says. I do a game with little lollipops where they have to keep a lollipop in their mouth if they're been noisy. And so they can't talk because the lollipop is in their mouth, but they have to try and make it so the lollipop does not dissolve as fast as anybody else. So they're focusing on keeping the lollipop just as big as possible for a long time. And they're so focused on that that they don't have time to talk or anything else. So that one
So,
I've used for younger kids.
so you don't have a sneaky one that goes, I want a lollipop. And I'm just gonna enjoy my lollipop.
Yeah, they have to make it last the longest. So I've done that one. Let's see what other games. I do a 3 strikes and you're out where I want students to play some music at each line as perfectly as possible. And if they make a mistake, that's 1 strike. Or if they make another one, that's 2 strikes. And they're trying to get as far as they can without striking out. That one's fun. I do a tennis game, and this helps a lot, especially with rhythm. So some students, you'll put a rhythm on the board, and some of them will clap the rhythm or try and do the rhythm on the screen or on the board, but then other ones will just sit and not participate or just not really read the rhythm, just follow what everyone else is doing. So instead I started doing it a game, and it made it so everyone was participating. So I divided the class in half, and the rhythm comes up on the screen, and half of the class does that rhythm. If they get it right, it goes over to the other team, and they have to do the next rhythm correctly, and it goes back and forth. Then as soon as one team messes up, it's a point for the opposite team.
Okay.
And it really helped them be engaged on their rhythms and try extra hard. I've done spelling bees where they have to play a series of notes perfectly in tune to pass. And those are our words. Our words are a series of notes, and they have to pass each note series perfectly in order to get a point. And that's what I call the spelling bee. I do all sorts of crazy games. I feel like anything could be a game.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I agree. Like I've used flashcards where my 3 groups have a competition that whoever can answer the most correct questions would get points. I've had this that has been helpful where all the broken bowls I've cut them into apologies, dog. Okay, so I've had this where I've taken all the broken bows and put them into small little ones like this so that we can focus on the bow hole, and I kind of get them to fly around like planes. And then when they land is when I check to make sure that they're holding the bows correctly. So they love this one.
I love that.
Yeah. For me, for like with COVID, we've been locked down for half the year, for 2 years, as I mentioned before. And the lot of kids have not had that privilege of playing in an ensemble, even though they've had lessons. So when I have this year, when we resumed all ensembles in Australia, was when I have this whole bunch of kids that has never had a chance of playing with other people. So it's quite tricky to get them to play together and listen to other people as non-absolute beginner players. So with me, I kind of teach them how to watch the conductor, and that was my focus for the last few months. It's how you watch me with my sticks. So they have to watch me like how I control the dynamics, the volume. So they have to watch how big or how small they're supposed to create their sound. And that's been great fun as well, because I'm like, okay, now you have to watch me cut off, and you all have to kind of stop at the same time. So they love it, but then every time they make a mistake, I'm like, okay, you have to do it again. Or if they're really good, I get them to be the conductor.
Yeah, I love conductor games. I've I do some of those as well, but I need to do more. I feel like I'm so busy teaching music, I don't do enough of those. But when it gets close to a concert, I scramble and start playing a lot of follow conductor games. But some of my favorites are conducting and having them say the word one every time I get to beat one. So they
Okay.
recognize one. I can do it at any speed, one. And then every time I get to one again, they'll say one. And I could change the meter, go to 4/4 time or 2/4 or 3/4, but they always know where one is, right? Because they say one and they have to say it as a class. So they love that game. And then they could even do a scale where we start to play a simple scale, but they only can change notes on beat one. And it really gets them watching like crazy because I can change the meter again or go different speeds, and they are just watching always for beat one.
Fair enough. That's cool. All right. There's a lot of games, isn't it, out there, and a lot of things that we can use. But
Yeah.
it's changing it. That is quite fun. I find. Um,
Yes.
yeah. No, it's great fun. What other tips do you have for teachers that may struggle in regards to finding content? Like because sometimes we're kind of lack of time. Like for you, you've got a setup where everything's set up and students they just come in and they start learning and then they leave. But for a lot of us here, it's the setting up and the packing up time, which kind of takes off part of our rehearsal time.
Yeah.
So, what is your advice for those that are placed in that particular situation?
Definitely harder. I think getting the students to, using the students as much as possible to do that setup and take it. I'm assuming the students do it, but just maybe even making that a game of timing it and see how short you can make that time be, the setup time. Making that its own contest could maybe help because the sooner you can get them playing, the better, right? So yeah, any moments where you can save time or help students time themselves. I use a lot of timers in my class, and I find students are really motivated when they could visually see a timer. So I have little sand timers that I'll use. Students use it for like individual practice things that they're practicing in class, but I also use them as a whole class where I say you have this long to get this done. And they scramble to make sure that they get done in that amount of time.
Okay, cool. How often do you do performances, or how often do you have the kids perform?
I've been doing 4 per year.
4 per year. All right. And would they do performances within the class itself, like for each other as groups, or?
They're doing those for, I do big concerts, big events for parents 4 times a year. So they're all big shows. And then we do 1 time a year of what I call my recruiting tour, where we just go play at the younger elementary schools just to get students interested in my program. That's how I've grown my program very large, and spreading interest is doing those performances. So I feel like we perform quite a bit. I was actually going to perform less next year. I was going to cut it down to just 3, just so I have more
And
time to rehearse basics and make sure they're really solid on all their skills as they move up.
yeah, yeah. No, performance experience is for me, I think it's the best. Like I've got kids that had a competition yesterday, and that was their first competition for more than half of them. And I could see the look in their faces where they were freaking out on stage. I'm like, okay, there's a lot to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an eye opener for this particular group for me.
Yeah, I would really like to find more performing opportunities that are different than concerts. I'd like to find ways to reach more in the community. So I was thinking about having them perform at some care centers, hospitals, or something like that, so that they can use music also for a service. So I'm going to have them do a
Absolutely,
little bit of
absolutely, absolutely. Now, as an educator, what are the struggles that you have faced? I mean, we always come around in sorting those problems out. But what are
yeah.
the struggles that you have, like one of the worst struggles that you have had as an educator?
For me, it's always been a struggle just to get the equipment that I need. Seems like I'm always short. Maybe a lot of teachers can relate to that. It seems like we always need more music in our music library, or we need more instruments, or we need more bows, or we need the technology to do what we need to do, or we need a classroom that's set up. There's all these things that we need equipment wise, where when we get what we need, when we have the materials we need, it makes our lives so much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And with kids that have rhythm problems, I know you have rhythm games, but sometimes kids have this struggle of connecting their knowledge to what is actually on the piece itself. Like for me, I get my students to say the rhythms out loud, or I create rhythms for them to play and say together at the same time. What would you do for your sessions?
For a student who struggled with rhythm.
Or playing together, like in regards to a rhythmic pattern in, let's say, a piece.
For staying together. There's a few things I like to do there. One is I love making up my own words to music. So if there's a tricky rhythm or they're not staying together in a part, I will make up my own words that they can say together in the rhythm. And that helps a ton just for them to have those words going in their minds or even and sing it out loud. So that's one thing that helps. And if in the ensemble they're not staying together, then I would say having them watch one particular student often fixes things. Like we're going to play to this note and you're going to watch the student and you're going to stop your bow exactly when they stop their bow. And just having them all of a sudden looking and paying attention to each other, it tightens things up a lot.
So how would your classroom setting be? Like a circle, a semicircle, straight line?
Yeah, I do have them. I have them in a semicircle. Yeah. Yeah. I have a traditional seating.
Okay. Okay. Sometimes I do experiment with a sound, like sometimes I'll have it in a circle where we can hear each other. Sometimes I have the string players walk around while they play the instrument so they can hear other parts. And it kind of tests their memories in regards to some pieces, short pieces that they can play by memory. So it's good for them to listen to sound from other parts.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely fun to play around with seating. I did one rehearsal towards the end of the year where I just created one giant circle in my classroom, and everyone just picked, well, I'd still seated them in sections, but they were in the circle. And some of those kids who struggle, I could not believe how much harder they were trying when they were in a circle and everyone could see each other. It was amazing to me what a difference it made.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I do miss those little parts where we experiment with the sitting itself. But for me, time is the one that's the problem for me.
Time, yes.
Yeah, you wish to have more time, but that's the time that's given to you. So yeah. So what's the worst behavior you've had from a student in a session?
Worst behavior. Just my last year, I had one student who just would not stop playing when everyone else had stopped. And that was starting to drive me crazy. And it was bothering people around him. But he just literally, it was such a habit for him from like places other orchestras he'd been in before. It was such a habit. It was really hard to help him break that habit. And it took a really long time. It probably took me 2 months to help him break that habit. And that's a long time. It was really hard because people got so bugged. It'd make people angry because it was taking class time when you have to wait for one person who's not following directions or not stopping when you're supposed to.
So how have you tackled that one?
I did some video. I do show videos in my class because I have the technology where I can show you YouTube things. I talked to my class about being sloppy. So I showed a video of somebody making breakfast, but it was all just slopped together. So you would never want to eat it because it was so sloppy and gross. And just talked about how we get the team effort to show lots of videos about how we're all a team. I would just go over gently, and if he was still playing and everyone else wasn't, I will just grab my bow and I would flick it underneath his bow and flick it off the string so you can't hear it anymore. Just little signals that I would give him, or just look at him, I'd give him a signal so he knew he had to stop or put it down. But it was constant, like I couldn't let up. I had to follow through constantly in order for him to start learning. It was hard. It took so long.
But you managed it, so that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So one of the struggles that I have is kids that don't practice my pieces, and the expectation that I'm given by the parents, because this is all organized by the parents. The expectation that's given by the parents, I make it quite clear to the parents and the students of the situation and what is expected. And I make the students aware that they are capable, but they just need that extra help, because I can't be spending 15 minutes on one child when I have a whole ensemble with me.
Right.
So that has been a personal challenge for myself. I think for myself, it's more of educating the students to be responsible for themselves. Although I would love parents to be supportive, not all parents have that time and support. So it's more of, for my case, for myself, I educate the students to be responsible for themselves. So it's their responsibility of bringing their folder, their music, their instrument. And it's not mommy's responsible of carrying your instrument to school or your music pieces, because mommy's not playing the instrument. You are playing the instrument.
Right.
So it's been great. And then I'm super animated, as you might already tell. But yeah, my kids love it. When I'm angry, I kind of pretend to be this angry monster. And they take it seriously, but they know that I'm kind of, in a right set of mind where I only mean well. It's not that you guys are horrible and you should not be here. It's more of, I'm the angry monster right now, and then later on I'm like super excited and happy that they've been able to accomplish or do something extremely well. So for my case, that's been great. But I don't know, other people may have different ways. Other people may not be as animated as I am. So they may have other ways in trying to encourage students to kind of follow through what is expected and what is doable and reachable in that sense.
I agree. I think getting kids to practice, I think, will always be a struggle.
Absolutely.
They don't ever all do the same thing. All students are different, and they all have different levels of commitment. Even though I do all I can to motivate and inspire my students and give them all a sense of commitment, they still are going to have different levels. Just
Absolutely.
like we all have different standards for how clean something should be. They just have their own standard, and yeah, trying to teach to that and teach them how to practice and what is expected it's a big job.
Yeah, it is. Every year is different, because kids are all different for me. But I like how you use the word teamwork. So I explain to the kids that in an ensemble, we are working as a team. It's not just one section or the other section is trying to be the best as a whole rather than the best individually.
Right. Yeah, one thing I'm going to try this next year, I just got this little idea, is I'm going to make punch cards or stamp cards. And I want them to progress more at the same level, because some practice more than others. I just want to make sure they're moving more together this next year. And so I'm going to make a card, for example, where they have to pass off a really nice bow hold. And they have to get a certain number of stamps or a certain number of punches on that card each in order to get their next card. And I think that's a good way just so they can see as a team, we need everyone to have these cards done so that we can move to this next level together. Something I'm playing around with.
That's cool. Well, I've tried things like I've explained to students where I use this military term where no soldier gets left behind. So I'm like, no musician is left behind. We all have to progress at the same time. But a lot of ensemble teachers tend to not incorporate theory, and it was great to hear that you said that you use theory in your sessions, and that's very important, because then everyone's on the same level where they understand the language of music. So explaining is very easy in that sense. But sometimes I give a reward system where for the younger kids, if they do really well, I give them stickers every week, or I give the best kids off the session stickers, or a small little prize, and it gives an incentive for the rest of them to progress. But I also do acknowledge those kids that have put in the extra effort or have improved a lot. Or one of the students that have put in the most effort out of everybody as well. So yeah, it's been great. I love being a teacher. I don't know about you. It's been great
I love
fun.
It too. Great. I love it.
Have you always wanted to be a teacher? Would be the question.
Actually, I thought I would never be a teacher. I was sure I would never be a teacher. I was going to be a composer. But nope, I tried composing in one class and I pulled so many all-nighters trying to meet deadlines that I decided that was not for me. And I went and tried teaching, and I immediately, as soon as I set foot in a classroom, I knew that was for me. I just love the creativity and the freedom you get in a classroom. And I just love working with students. I think I must be, sometimes my mind, I think, is a 12-year-old, my sense of humor and things. So I have a lot of fun.
No, it is great fun. Yeah, I would have never thought I'd be a teacher myself. Like I was going to be a veterinarian. I was going to be,
Really?
I was going to be, my dad wanted me to be a pharmacist, some boring job. And then the moment I started teaching and experimenting with teaching, it's like, oh, wow, this is fun. Like you can actually have fun teaching.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, it's like it's so new. Like I remember growing up and everything was very dead set, traditional, boring, But yeah, I've learned to realize that learning and teaching can be absolute fun. So it's been great.
It's a lot of fun. And just watching students thrive and grow is really rewarding.
Yeah, you see their lit up faces and it's like, oh wow, miss, I've never scored so high in all my tests before. Like music, this is the first time I've scored the highest. You get all these remarks like, oh wow.
Yeah, I love it. So good.
Okay, so now any last advice you would like to give any teachers or educators out there or parent out there in regards to how to manage kids as a whole or what to expect?
Well, my best secret, I feel like, is like we talked about, just turning everything into a game. Like I had a parent come up to me and say, well, how do I get my student to do this rhythm? They just can't physically get this rhythm yet. And I said, well, try and do it, make a game of it, or where you try and hit it on certain things around the house, or move your body different ways, or use your foot or use your whole arm to do the rhythm. And it's just about exploring things and turning anything into games. I got a student who just tended to slouch a little bit, and we fixed that really easily by putting 2 coins under his feet. And I just said, if I see those coins, I get them back. But if you cover the coins, then you get to keep those coins. And just how quickly he immediately just fixed everything. I just feel like if kids are engaged and inspired when there's a game.
Absolutely. And very last one. Have you ever had a chance of teaching an ensemble online since we're in this era of technology?
I had an online group for only about 2 months, and I didn't ever have to make them perform. So I was kind of lucky that way. I didn't really have to make them play for me. So I didn't have any Zoom classes, but I did have to give them playing experiences. So I would make videos and share videos with them, and I would create choice boards where students can explore things they wanted to learn, and they were able to choose their learning path, and then they would go through and complete different activities. But I never really had to teach a class where they were all present with me online.
Okay. Yeah, we're in a different environment here where sometimes
really?
that has to happen. Yeah. So it has been a struggle, especially with different internet connections and situations. So it's workable. It's just not ideal, as you can't hear everyone playing at the same time as yet. I know it would happen eventually.
Yes.
But yeah, we haven't been able to do that. It's finding different activities to have that done. But like from memory from the last 2 years, it's finding games to incorporate. So it's not just all about playing, or trying to play with, let's say, an audio. It's creating other games like theory games and rhythmic games, or creative games where they create their own rhythms and they play the rhythms that they create, or they play the rhythms that other students have created. So it's kind of a bouncing ball between students. So it's not just one person and the other person. It's, yeah, it's been an interesting journey on my side in creating all that. But yeah, it is workable. But for you to do it for 2 months and you having a structure for them to choose their path, that's a good idea to keep in mind. Well, thank you, Angela, for all the tips and games and stuff like that. It's been an absolute pleasure of having you on to share.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice to meet you and hear about your ideas and all the amazing things that you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Now,